This movie shows each of the 500 days, where Tom so desperately tries to find out what he did wrong after his girlfriend dumps him out of nowhere. The movie opens with day 488, the scene where a couple are seated at a bench and we see the girl's ringed finger as the two hold hands. They are gleaming with happiness as they look at each other with nothing but love in their eyes. The scene pans on to day 290 where we see a little girl who happens to be Tom's sister ride her bike hastily to get to a place. She's distressed as she sees Tom breaking plates with no control over himself. She asks Tom the cause of his outburst and Tom confesses that things were great with Summer, but she suddenly decided to dump him out of the blue because all they did was argue. Summer calls him her best friend and he's devastated. His sister and friends try their best to console him, but Tom is adamant on wanting her back. He doesn't want to lose her. We then start off with day 1. Tom works at a greeting card company as a card writer and feels his life is incomplete without someone who he can love for the rest of his life. He is convinced he will only be happy when he finds his true love. We then see Summer, whose idea of love is shattered after her parents' marriage fell apart. Tom first sees Summer on January 8th, where he is immediately convinced that she is the one. We're back to day 1 where Tom struggles to pay attention at his board meeting. He has a few friends and is seemingly happy with his life. But that's when Summer walks in as his boss's new assistant and Tom is instantly in love. He is immediately taken by Summer's beauty. Summer's not just another girl but an elegant woman who leaves a sparkle wherever she goes. People are bound to fall in love with this magical girl. On day 3, Tom's friend warns him about Summer being a total bitch. They assume her to be some kind of egotistical girl who thinks she's better than everyone. On day 4, Tom and Summer run into each other at the lift. Summer compliments his taste in music and Tom is elated at that. Tom talks to his friends about how much he likes Summer. While at first, he plays things cool, he is convinced she is the one after their exchange in the elevator over their mutual love of the Smiths. Day 8 is when they meet again at an office party. Their conversation span increases every time and they get closer even though things seem a little awkward. They exchange glances and smile at each other. Day 154 is when Tom tells his friend he's fallen for Summer and everything about her. Her smile and her beautiful hair, her laugh and her little heart-shaped birthmark. She makes him feel alive and happy and that anything is possible. He loves the way he is when he's in love with her. On day 11, he tells his sister how much they're compatible and despite her telling him that doesn't make Summer his soulmate, Tom is too wound up to listen to her. He tells his friends that his and Summer's connection is off on day 22 because of her not picking up on his hints like playing her favorite band's music, but she just doesn't seem interested. We're at day 27 where he spends almost 2 weeks pining over her and executing awkward attempts to initiate conversation, but can't hit a chord. An opportunity arises when Tom's best friend tells him that the entire office is going to a karaoke bar the following evening. Tom arrives at the bar as his best friend is singing. He sees Summer and she seems happy to see him. Summer goes up and sings while Tom drinks with his friend and watches Summer. Tom's friend asks Summer if she has a boyfriend and she denies, saying she doesn't really want one. Tom is very curious to know her answer. Summer cordially replies saying she just wants to be on her own rather than hurt someone's feelings as relationships are really messy. The three of them sit together and talk about relationships and love, during which Tom and Summer argue over whether or not love is real, with Summer saying it isn't while Tom says it is. The two agree to disagree. Summer then gets Tom a little drunk and has him sing karaoke. While helping Tom's friend to a cab, Tom's friend blurts out that Tom likes Summer, and the two are left on the sidewalk. Summer asks if it is true and Tom, after some coaxing from Summer, says that he likes her as a friend and nothing more. Summer calls him very interesting and leaves Tom standing there on the sidewalk. The next day, Summer kisses him in the copy room, but once her copies are finished, she simply ignores Tom and leaves the copy room. When his best friend comes over after he finds out, Tom asks him to keep quiet, but his friend goes on a rant about how Tom is obsessed with her. That's when Summer comes out of his room and greets his best friend, who's shocked to find her there. We see a glimpse of day 282 where the two walk around IKEA, but Summer is not really interested in Tom's jokes. This is a reminder of day 34 where they walk around IKEA and joke about living as a married couple in the store's demonstration rooms. But as they're about to kiss on a bed in a store, Summer makes it clear that she isn't looking for anything serious. Tom agrees to a casual relationship even though it hurts him a lot. They return to Tom's bedroom and start to have romantic moments on his bed. He goes into the bathroom and convinces himself that it's just casual fun, reminding himself to just take it slow. As he walks out, however, he sees her lying without clothes on the bed and they have great moments. He walks out the next morning, dancing and upbeat. He's in love with Summer and on top of the world. He is elated and feels like the world is a better place after all. After singing and dancing along with some equally cheerful passers-by, Tom arrives at work and starts suggesting high-quality slogans for cards, all while thinking of Summer. On day 303, Tom looks pretty beat up as he's not with Summer anymore. He wants to get her back by hook or by crook and his friend tries his best to get him over her. but he's adamant on wanting her back. That's when he gets a message from Summer saying she'd hang out with him soon, but just as friends and nothing more. Around day 45, they get closer than ever before, and both of them are pretty content with whatever is happening. After a month or so, they go around looking for DVDs and find some R-rated ones that they decide to try on themselves. Summer and Tom go out and have fun. As they spend more time together, they become closer. He shows her around the city and all his memories attached with it. Summer shares her most intimate thoughts and stories with him, while Tom takes her to his favorite spot in the city. He draws figures on her arm and explains everything that he absolutely adores about the city. That day, Summer brings Tom to her house and he casually looks around. He was finally able to crack through her wall of hiding, of casualness. He could finally see her in whole and who she was. Summer and Tom cuddle in bed and crack jokes, share their secrets. Tom is ecstatic to see Summer lower her wall in front of him. He tells his friends he doesn't want to put a label on what him and Summer are. Day 118, his sister tells him to confess all of his feelings to Summer before things get even more complicated and his feelings get hurt. When Tom does ask Summer, she replies saying she doesn't really know and doesn't care because all she cares about is being happy, which she is. Around day 282, things went great for a few weeks. However, one night in a bar, a random guy starts hitting on Summer. She makes it clear she isn't interested, but he won't believe she's with Tom. After taking some more insults, Tom stands up and punches the guy. He awkwardly smiles at Summer before the guy gets up and beats him down. She takes Tom to her apartment and yells at him since she thought he was not acting cool at all and did it for his own sense of self. Tom starts fighting back after Summer asks him to leave and that they're really just friends. He yells that everything they are doing isn't a friendship, and that even though she doesn't want to label things, he thinks that they're in a relationship because Summer isn't the only one who gets a say. He storms out. The two go to bed. Tom contemplates calling her, but doesn't. She comes to his apartment and apologizes. Tom tells her he needs some consistency in the relationship and Summer agrees. They make out for a while and have a heart-to-heart and share their past relationships. She tells him about her bi experience. The two seem happy to get to know more about each other. They go to the movies together and have fun. After their breakup, Tom reminisces about those moments as he goes to the movies alone. He's very lonely and just wants someone to listen to his feelings and understand him, because life doesn't seem fair or meaningful without Summer. His depression worsens and begins to affect his work. His boss calls him in and he asks if Tom's performance is related to Summer leaving. Tom tries to play it off, but his boss tells him that everyone knows. It is made clear that Summer also quit her job at the card company. His boss understands his dilemma and wishes him well. He reminisces about his time in the office when everything made sense with her around and he had his way around everything. But that changes really soon. He looks at a card he had written for them and his heart aches to see that the card doesn't hold its inspiration anymore. He tries his best to get over her, but he can't. He goes out with other girls as well, but nothing feels the same anymore. He rants about Summer to every other girl he goes out with, which makes his love life even more miserable than it was before. Months pass. One of Tom's co-workers is getting married. He takes the train to go to the wedding and sees Summer on the way to his seat. He tries to hide, but she sees him and approaches. They talk and go get a coffee. The entire weekend is spent together. They talk about their past memories with each other and have a great time. At the wedding, he asks her to dance and they have a very romantic night together. She invites Tom to a party at her place. Tom is hopeful that things are finally improving for the better. Tom's expectations for the night are to make his dreams a reality. He is really hopeful for Summer to reciprocate her feelings this time. However, as he arrives at the party, the differences between his dream night and that night are hauntingly apparent. He barely talks to Summer and finds comfort with the bottle. He then sees Summer showing off her ring and her fiancé. Tom loses it. He leaves without a word, angry and hurt that Summer would treat him like this. Tom spends the next 2 days in a catatonic state. He leaves the apartment once to buy orange juice, Twinkies, and Jack Daniels. He eventually returns to work, just in time for the weekly presentations. His best friend reminds him that today is the day they present their pitches for new cards. Halfway through the presentation, Tom decides that his beliefs of love, fate, and relationships were wrong. He gives the board a passionate speech about how their company is comfortable feeding people lies and that they are the reason people have such unrealistic expectations. He quits and leaves. The board is left stunned as his best friend awkwardly claps at his friend's departure. Tom struggles a lot with his depression. He slowly starts to lose himself but finds his way back up. He slowly begins to take steps to help himself. Rachel tells him that he should take a second look at Summer and Tom's relationship and stop ignoring the bad. He realizes that there was always something Summer was holding back and kept her from truly being in the relationship. He remembers the time Summer cried her eyes out during a movie and she doesn't really say why. He finally sees everything that went wrong and it wasn't his fault that things didn't really work out. He begins to take up architecture again. He trashes his apartment and begins drawing on the walls and designing. He slowly builds up a portfolio and makes a list of firms to present his work at. One by one he is rejected. Once the firms dwindle to a handful, Tom begins to lose hope. On the other hand, Summer has finally found love and is getting married. Tom goes to the bench at his favorite part of the city. He's gazing down at some of the buildings when Summer calls out to him. She compliments his looks and tells him she knows he's angry. Tom tells her she should have said something at the wedding instead of leading him on for the second time. She apologizes and tells him that she's happy to see he's doing all right. Tom confesses that he now realizes that all his ideas about love were wrong. Summer points out that they weren't. The girl who didn't want to be anyone's girlfriend was now someone's wife. She tells him that with her husband, she knew what she was never sure of with Tom, that she was in love with him and wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. She also tells Tom that if there's no destiny, she might have never so easily met him in a deli. She tells Tom he was right, but just not about her. She holds his hand and squeezes before telling him that she needs to go. Tom tells her he's happy that she's happy, but makes a point not to congratulate her on her marriage. She smiles and leaves Tom. Finally, on day 500, Tom is on his way to a job interview. As he sits there, waiting to be interviewed, a girl across the waiting room smiles at him. Tom jokes that since she's the competition, he hopes she doesn't get the job. She returns the wish. She finally calls out to him and asks if they've met. She tells him that she's seen him sitting on a bench in Tom's favorite spot, which is coincidentally her favorite spot as well. Tom says he's never seen her before, so she replies he probably was not looking. The interviewer calls Tom in, but as he's walking he turns back and asks the girl to get some coffee afterwards. She tells him that she is meeting someone. However, as Tom turns around, she agrees and says they'll work it out. Tom smiles and introduces himself. She smiles and introduces herself. Her name is Autumn. Then, on the screen, it reads day 1, signifying that this is the first day of his relationship with Autumn.